There are almost 500 million people living in the European Union, and European laws have a growing influence over their daily lives. But who influences the making of these laws? A growing body of evidence suggests that these laws are being majorly influenced by corporate lobbyists, who sometimes even co-draft the text that becomes the backbone of a new legislation. EU laws start life in the European Commission. But with so many complex issues under their control, the Commission sets up advisory groups, called expert groups, to provide advice on specific issues when developing new laws. These groups report to the Commission, and their work often forms the foundation of new laws which are then sent to the European Parliament and Council for approval. Expert groups are meant to represent the interests of all relevant stakeholders. But a Brussels-based campaigning group, Corporate Europe Observatory, found that the majority of participants in many of these expert groups represented corporate interests. As a result, business interests now appear to dominate the heart of the legislative process.
More than half of the laws that are adopted in the national level, they have their origins here in Brussels, which means actually the European Commission. So it's very important if the European Commission is letting corporate interests to co-draft these legislative pieces. The fact that the vast majority of the non-governmental advisors that are used by the Commission represent corporate interests, it's a very serious threat to democracy.
There are an estimated 15,000 to 30,000 lobbyists in Brussels. Most big companies have a presence there, and all are eager to influence the legislative process. Yves de Lespinay runs a lobbying school in Brussels. The role of Yves is to get his clients onto these expert groups to act as advisors.
So to have the maximum amount of influence is going to a policy officer of the European Commission when he has to write the legislation. It doesn't know everything, and he needs people from the outside world to bring information. That is the work done by industry, NGOs, any kind of interest which have an interest in the issue will try to have face-to-face meetings with the policy officer. And the more it goes, the better the text of the Commission becomes.
Better for the corporate clients, certainly, who are the ones mainly taking the courses at the lobbying school. Monica Macovei, a Romanian MEP, was so concerned about who is drafting the laws she receives that she petitioned her fellow members of parliament to suspend and cap funding for these expert groups.
I believe that we don't have enough transparency in the expert groups. I asked the Commission more times to ensure transparency. We need to know who these people are, where they come from, to check if there are no conflict of interest involved. So all this information must be provided.
In the aftermath of the financial crisis, a group of experts on banking issues was set up to advise the Commission on new laws concerning banking regulations. Of its 42 members, 25 were from banks and 9 from investment firms. Of the 25 from banks, 23 were members of the International Institute of Finance, an association of big banks that has worked hard to water down regulations on banks. Mario Nava, who works for the Commission, doesn't see the harm in this.
In that particular case, I chair the group, and with my colleagues, we have the views heard of the different people, and I would really challenge anybody to find bias in favor of the one or the other group.
But consumer rights groups disagree.
Well, what we see with those expert groups, 1,000 and plus, which are being established by the European Commission, is that sometimes there is a huge overrepresentation of business within those expert groups, and that there's sometimes a clear lack of other voices like civil society or NGOs. And this is, of course, a huge problem, because that means that decision-making or laws are only being influenced by some part of the society, and this is a biased situation. There's a biased voice then being heard.
The group of experts on banking was dissolved in October 2011 after complaints about its members finally forced the Commission to act. Guido Raffou from the European Banking Federation was part of that group. He's confident the suspension of the group will have little impact on how the interests he represents will be heard.
In that sense, GABI was mainly a consultative body out of bankers, banking experts, and I think that's the main reason. Now, it will not stop the Commission of consulting the industry, so I'm quite confident that even when this banking expert group is discontinued, there will be possibilities and opportunities enough for the industry to make its position heard.
As a result of pressure from Corporate Europe Observatory and the Alliance for Lobbying Transparency and Ethics Regulation, some changes have been made to bring about more balance and transparency in the groups. Although this is a step in the right direction, much stricter new rules are needed.
The Commission should propose new rules. They should draft these rules together with the Parliament, and these rules should include safeguards against domination by special interests, so that no single interest category can be allowed to have the majority in an expert group. That's the first thing. The second thing is to have more transparency, so all the minutes and all the agendas of the meetings to be public. This way, the citizen will be able to control what is happening, and we will be able also to have better regulation, better legislation by taking into account the proposals of all kinds of interests in society.